Here are 5 signs that you've bought the wrong size bike. I'm going to preface this video by saying that bicycles are not always a one size fits all. There's lots of different sizes of bike that are suited to different heights of people. For example, small bikes will suit shorter people and big bikes will suit taller people. But even with that being said, it doesn't necessarily mean that a big bike is perfect for a big person and a small bike is perfect for a small person, because you might have a bunch of different sizes within that. And I know this all sounds confusing, and that's why we wanted to make today's video about 5 signs that you bought the wrong size bike. The first thing I want to talk about in today's video is why does it matter if you bought the wrong size bike? There's honestly a whole bunch of different reasons here why it's actually really important to buy the right size bike. A few of the first things that come to mind are performance, comfort, and even more importantly, injury prevention. The first thing is performance. When we're riding a bike, we want to have a nice, efficient pedal stroke so that we can get power coming from all the 4 main muscle groups in our legs. If we had the wrong size, we're either going to be biased towards a couple of the muscles in our legs, or we're just simply not going to be able to use all of the muscles because we can't have an efficient pedal stroke. So we're not able to get the full performance out of the bike or out of our body. Also, if you've been watching incredibly closely on this video already, you might have noticed that the background has just changed. We're actually getting some skirting boards put in the building right now because we've just moved to our brand new bike shop and it's not ready yet. So we're still in the construction phase. There's tradies coming in and out, trucks going back and forth, but we haven't made a video with the whole shop tour because it's not ready yet. So make sure you click the subscribe button down below so that you get a notification for when the video comes out of when we do the shop tour of this new shop, because we're currently in the transition. So anyway, that was a quick little ADHD side quest. So welcome back to the video. As I was just saying before, you're not going to be able to use all of the different muscle groups in your legs. Now I'm going to give you a quick normal person description of what we're looking at here. I'm sure there's a scientist or a physio that's going to tell me that I've got this a little bit wrong, but it gives the right idea. In your leg, there's 4 main muscle groups. We've got your calf, your quadricep, your hamstring, and your glutes. There's sort of the 4 main muscle groups. As we're pedaling along, if we can have an efficient pedal stroke, get the full length out of each stroke, we're able to balance all 4 of the main muscle groups per pedal stroke, per revolution of the cranks. If we're using a bike that's too small, this one is too small for me, I can reach the floor very easily. If I'm pedaling along, at the bottom of the pedal stroke, I've still got an incredibly bent leg. That means that I'm going to be using a lot of this quadricep, and I might even be using quite a bit of my glute at the back here as well, but I'm not using too much of my hamstring, it's still floppy, and I'm not using much of my calf as well. So I'm not getting a fully efficient pedal stroke. Just because I'm only using 2 muscle groups rather than 4, it doesn't mean that I have 50% power. It could be very different to that. Point being, this one is far too small and I'm not going to have an efficient pedal stroke. This means that my performance is going to be heavily downgraded as well. The second thing I want to talk about is comfort. If you buy the wrong size bike, it might not be very comfortable. So I just briefly spoke about the height. So the distance from the pedal to the saddle, contact point to contact point. As one side of the bike gets taller, so we get a larger frame, it also means that it's going to get longer, as in the handlebars will get further away from where the saddle is. So instead of, if I twist myself, instead of riding like this, we might be riding stretched out like this so that we can reach it, or vice versa. It might come in really narrow, which is going to mean that it's very sort of, squished up together. And then the opposite of that is if it's really long, you're going to feel yourself using your lower back and even some of your trap muscle here, which as cyclists, we probably don't use it very much unless you're a swimmer maybe, or throwing a ball sport or something like that. But we don't use much of this muscle here when we're cycling. But if we're stretched out, it's going to be engaged the whole time, which is taking blood flow away from where it should be, which is your legs, and you're going to start using it in your upper body, which is just not comfortable. Not the end of the world, but it feels like you're sitting in a push-up position for an entire bike ride, which could be hours. You also have comfort impacts on things like your back or your legs. If you're stretched out, your back might be curled a little bit more rather than it being nice and straight and solid. And then even your legs, if you have to reach all the way to the bottom of the pedal stroke, you might find that your legs have to stretch all the way down, which is going to rock your pelvis. So there's, point I'm trying to say here is there's bad things that can happen both ways. If we went too big or if we went too small, both of them can be bad. And the third reason that bike sizing matters is injury prevention. I briefly mentioned just a second ago, if you have to stretch too far with your legs to go all the way down to the bottom of the pedal stroke, what you'll find is as your legs are going like this, your pelvis, the the piece in the middle of your body that I suppose connects your torso to your legs might have to rock a little bit so that you can reach all the way to the bottom of each pedal stroke. If your pelvis is rocking like this, your spine wants to sit nice and straight, but because your pelvis is rocking, your spine's going to be kind of wobbling a little bit like this. So it's really going to damage your lower back. That is if it is too high. Sometimes this can be adjusted a little bit with your seat height. You might be able to lower your seat maybe a centimetre or maybe an inch, and that might make enough of a difference. But sometimes it's just simply that the triangle in the frame, as in the top tube, the down tube and the seat tube, might just be too big or perhaps even too small. So there's a couple of different signs that you bought the wrong bike. The first one I want to talk about is a visual sign, something that you can pretty clearly see with your own two eyes. Here are some visual signs that you've bought the wrong size bike. Some visual signs that you've bought the wrong bike could include, as you're on the bike, if you're trying to pedal, when the pedal is at the bottom of the pedal stroke, you still have a bent leg. It's worth noting here that the seat height can be adjusted up and down a little bit. When I say a little bit, I'm talking a few centimeters here and there. Whereas if I was to look at my seat height here, it's incredibly low. I'd need to come right up to probably about there to get to the right seat height, which is a really big difference between my body and the bike. To be fair, this is a really extreme example. This is significantly too small for me, but you will be able to tell as you're pedaling around, even just in the car park. Something that I've noticed as well, when I'm selling a bike, if somebody's test riding it around the car park and they're pedaling around and it might be too small, as they go around a corner and they're pedaling, their knee can touch the handlebar. If you're out pedaling and you're turning around a roundabout, for example, out on the actual street where the cars all drive, if you're going around the corner and your knee was to bump the handlebar, it's going to make the handlebars do this, which can result in a crash. So because you have the wrong size bike, you might crash. Even just the fact that it feels more cramped. If I'm trying to pedal around, I feel like I'm sitting so far forward and I've got a really big bend in my elbows and a pretty tight bend in my shoulders as well. Hopefully, we want to have it a little bit more stretched out a bit further so that we've got a bit more of a sort of open angle in our shoulder. We don't want to be like stretched out like this to the point that it is a stretch and we're using that muscle there, but we just want to be open a little bit more. This one is very close for me. Whereas this bike here would be a little bit more suited to my height. The seat height is a little bit better. Now I've got a little bit of a bend in my knee. It's not completely locked out, but I've got a bit of a bend. I'm not all, cramped up like I was before. I've also got plenty of distance between my knee and the handlebar. So even if I was steering around a corner, I've still got quite a big gap. I'm a little bit more sort of stretched out forwards. So now the air's kind of gonna cut over me a little bit better. You can see the angle of my shoulder that I was talking about before. It's a little bit more sort of open and I've got a little bit of a bend in my elbow. I'm not bent like I was before to make it fit. I've just got a bit of a bend and this is just how I sit comfortably on the bike. This isn't, trying to stretch out or anything like that. This just feels a lot more comfortable for me. Also, since this is a larger frame, it's pretty common to have a larger handlebar as well, quite a bit wider. The bike that I was sitting on before, the handlebars were in quite a bit narrower, which I know that some people like when they're talking about performance and racing because it gets you in a more aerodynamic position, but as a pretty average rule of thumb, your handlebar is usually about the same width as your shoulders. That's a pretty common rule of thumb. So this feels just a lot more comfortable. Also, as I'm looking down here, the hub of the wheel, the center of the wheel down here is just behind the handlebars, so I can still see it. Whereas on the other bike, it was perfectly in line with the handlebar, so I couldn't see the hub at all. And this just feels just a lot more sort of normal, a little bit more performance orientated. And now that I've got the higher seat height, and it's not the fact that it's too high, it's just high enough, that means that I'm gonna have the efficient pedal stroke all throughout the bike ride. If you were riding a frame size that was too big, you might find yourself stretching out because now the frame's bigger, so the saddle's back here. And you can see the angle of my shoulder, which I keep talking about. I can feel it's very open and I can feel that it's actually, I've got this muscle engaged here. It feels quite solid. Well, as solid as a cyclist's upper body is supposed to feel, but it feels quite stretched out. I can also feel like my lower back is kind of curled a little bit. I don't know if it looks like that much in the video, but it's very stretched out. And my elbows here are locked out so that they can reach all the way where they need to reach. So
it feels uncomfortable to me.
Aside from visual signs, there's also a couple of feelings that we can have both on and off the bike that are telltale signs that we might have bought the wrong frame size as well. Some of these feelings could include your lower back hurting, maybe your hips hurting, or even just your knees hurting. It might not necessarily even be a pain as such. It might just be a lack of mobility in these different areas as well. That can be a telltale sign that we've got the wrong frame size. If your back is hurting, that can be a pretty telltale sign that maybe we've gone a frame size too big, because chances are we're stretching out so that we can ride the bike and we have to reach really far. Another reason why your back might be hurting is maybe you went to a frame size that was too small and you've had to be squashed up on the frame and you have to sort of curl your back so that you can fit in the smaller area. It's more common having a back issue if it's too long or too big, but sometimes it can happen if it's far too small as well. Also, I've had this issue before with my back. I had a lower back pain. You could maybe loosely tie it in with hips, which will be the next point as well, because I had my seat height too high. I was trying to get as much efficiency as I could, and I thought the higher the seat height, the better, which I've now learned is not always actually the case, especially if you look at people like Mark Cavendish. He runs a really low seat height and he's one of the best cyclists in the world. If your seat is too high, what I found is my pelvis, the big bone that's connecting my legs to my torso, had to rock a little bit so that my legs could reach all the way to the bottom of the pedal stroke. I had to lean my body across like this. I wasn't thinking about leaning my pelvis, but in order to reach all the way to the bottom of each pedal stroke, my body was just doing that. So my pelvis is going like this for however many hours I'm out on the bike. And then eventually my lower back, my spine was starting to complain about it. The second telltale sign might be that your hips are sore. It might not even actually be that they are sore. It might just be that you don't have good hip flexor mobility, or just in general, your hips, as in you can't sort of move all the way around in the joint very well. A really common one that I see for cyclists is a hip flexor issue. The hip flexor is the muscle that's at like the front of your leg. I'm gonna stand up for a second. It's the muscle that's like at the front of your leg here, and that's what allows you to raise your leg like that. So if your hip flexor is really tight and you don't have good mobility, then that can be an issue for a lot of cyclists. Throughout my years of cycling, and especially in the triathlon world, I've seen that some people like to change the length of their cranks. So the section where the pedals are connected to, the metal pole that's there, that spins around, the crank, you can get different lengths of that. We're talking millimeter differences here and there, but sometimes that can change it. If you've got a shorter crank, it means that as you're pedaling, your foot doesn't have to come quite as high to do that pedal stroke. The circumference of the pedal stroke is a little bit smaller if you go to a smaller crank set. So it's a really common thing that I see in the triathlon scene, because they go for a bicycle ride and then as soon as they finish the bike ride, they go for a run, and sometimes your hips can have issues there. So sometimes a shorter crank might get you out of trouble here. And the third feeling that you might have is some knee problems or knee pain. This is a pretty telltale sign that your seat height might be incorrect. If your seat is too high, you'll have to stretch all the way down, and that's gonna mean that your knee has to completely lock out every single pedal stroke, which is eventually gonna bring some pain to your knee. So maybe if you were to drop your seat height an inch, maybe 2.5 centimeters, maybe not even that much. If you were to keep dropping it, keep dropping it, keep dropping it until you get to the right seat height, I'm just simply gonna say you'll know when it's right, because it will be painless. Sometimes we can get some pain in our upper body as well, whether it's in our shoulders, elbows, wrists, or even in your hands, maybe even in your neck as well. We can get some pains up there as well. And that's gonna mean that we've probably got adjustments that we need to make on the bike. That might not necessarily mean that we have got the wrong frame size. It might just mean that we need to raise the handlebars a little bit, or get a slightly shorter stem, or maybe double wrap the handlebar tape or something like that. There's little variables that we can do within the bike fit to make it a little bit more comfortable. To expand on a couple of them, things like your shoulders. If you're really stretched out and it's a really long frame, you're gonna sort of feel like you're using a muscle on top of your shoulder a little bit more than you normally would. Maybe like that front deltoid, which you really shouldn't need to use too much when you're riding a bike. Even if your hands or your wrists are starting to feel a little bit sore, it could be something to do with the angle of the shifters. So you can kind of roll them further up or roll them further down. If they're rolled really far down, you might find it stretching this muscle on top here. So if you were to roll them up a little bit, that might make it just a little bit more comfortable again. What I'm saying here is this upper body pain might not necessarily mean that you've bought the wrong bike. It might just mean that we need to make some adjustments. If you are watching this video and you've already had a bike before and you've found some pain in your upper body, let us know in the comment section down below what you did to change it. Did you go to a longer stem or a shorter stem, or did you maybe twist the handlebar levers inwards or something like that? Let us know in the comment section down below what you did. And another feeling that you might have is maybe as you're riding, the bike just feels a little bit unusual. Maybe it feels really twitchy, or maybe it's really difficult to steer, which is the opposite of twitchy. Maybe it feels different or really weird when you stand up versus when you sit down, or maybe you can't reach the floor when you're standing at the traffic lights or something like that. There might be something unusual like that that could tell you that you bought the wrong frame size as well. To expand on one of these, if your bike feels really twitchy, as in as you're riding along, it kind of begins to wobble a little bit, or as you go around a corner, it's a little bit scary to actually lean into the corner because you're thinking it might pull a little bit further. Maybe the stem of the bike might be too long, or maybe the frame size that you bought could be too big. And then on the opposite side of that, if you're trying to turn around a corner and it feels like you really have to pull it and it's difficult to actually steer the bike, maybe it's too short, or perhaps the stem might be too short. With all of that being said though, just because your bike doesn't feel perfect, it doesn't necessarily mean that you've bought the wrong frame size, because there's so many variables that we can change on the bike. We can go to different length stems, we can go to shorter stems, longer stems, wider handlebars, narrower handlebars, all of this sort of thing. Even things like the seat height. I've been talking a lot in this video about how the seat height can change how it feels on the bike. So we can adjust it. If you are unsure about how to change the seat height on your bike, you can check out this video further back on our channel as well, where we talk about how to get the perfect seat height. In that video, we give you 3 different ways that you can do it. We've also got a video further back on our channel about how to set up the cockpit on your bike like a pro. I hope this video has given you a bit of an idea as to some of the signs to know whether you bought the wrong frame size. Ideally, you might have watched this video before you've gone and bought your bike, so now you know a couple of different things to look for when you're out test riding your bike. If you've bought a bike before and it was the wrong frame size and you have a horror story, let us know in the comment section down below. Otherwise, I'm going to say thanks for watching and we'll see you in the next video. See ya.